Oh boy.
What?
0.10.
Okay, good. We've done it. We've done it.
Hi, I'm Peter Tragos, host of the Lawyer You Know podcast and YouTube channel. The saying goes, everyone hates lawyers until you need one. Well, I'm here when you need one to answer your questions and give you insight that you didn't know you needed.
Welcome back to the Lawyer You Know, and today we've got a special episode. We're at Pete's house in his bar right now, which is kind of the theme of this episode because we're going to be talking about for a series of clips here about DUIs, field sobriety exercises, breath tests, and how you navigate these waters as an individual. Now, nothing we're going to be doing in today's or any of these videos dealing with DUIs is going to be legal advice. We are definitely not advising trying this at home, and Pete has a nice disclaimer set up for you.
We are professionals. Do not try this at home. We are professionals. We've actually done the research. We've got supervision. We've got hydration. We know what we're doing based on the scientific values. Please do not try this at home.
We've set it up in a way that it's a controlled environment so we can see how all this stuff affects Pete. Pete's going to be our guinea pig in our science experiment today. And we're going to talk through how DUIs work, what the process is. We're going to do a normal video type thing on that as we're waiting for time to go by. But we have other elements to show exactly how somebody can be affected. The point of the video today is we are going to have Pete blow in a breathalyzer at 0.00, do field sobriety exercises at 0.00, and then continue to drink until he gets to 0.08, which then he's going to do field sobriety exercises again and answer some questions again. And then we're going to have him drink more until he gets to 0.15. And we'll tell you why we picked that number later in the videos. Once he gets to 0.15, we're going to do it all over again. He's going to do the field sobriety exercises again, and we're just going to see how that progresses. We're also going to see how he answers questions as we progress, how he looks, what his eyes look like, if he smells like alcohol. We're going to go through all the things that the cops are looking for when they pull somebody over under suspicion of driving under the influence of alcohol. So that's going to be the point of these series of videos, and it's going to be 2 or 3 videos. So you're going to have to subscribe to our page so you don't miss out on seeing how Pete does at 0.08, which is the legal limit in Florida, and 0.15. My guess is going to be 0.15 is going to be the most fun to watch. So stay tuned for that. But like we said, this is not something we would ever advise doing at home. We're doing it as a learning experience. Pete is not driving at the end of this. We are at his house. That's the reason. Anything you may see me drinking is coffee or water. So we are in a controlled environment. Nothing bad can possibly happen here. Pete's wife and kids are around. I mean, nothing bad is going to happen.
What could possibly happen?
Let's start out and explain what we've got. So in Florida, explain the breath machine that they use, and then we're using kind of just a cheaper version of it today that we have.
Sure. Florida uses the Implied 8000.
It sounds like something from Back to the Future. That's what I think of.
Instrument between you and me that's 20 years old, but Florida has adopted it. Every county uses it. Every law enforcement agency uses it. You can't get a hold of one under regular pretense, so we can't just go online and buy an Implied 8000. It also requires calibration and all kinds of things that are just beyond us today. So we're using this, which is actually a portable mobile unit. Believe it or not, some law enforcement agencies actually give this to their DUI task forces just as a presumptive test. And this is the same thing that we have here, something you can buy online, somewhere between 100 and 150 bucks.
So what's interesting about these is whenever we try DUI cases and we talk about the breath samples when people blow and get these numbers, Pete calls it an instrument. We always call it a machine. Mm-hmm. Talk about what the difference is, why we as the defense lawyers call it a machine and the prosecutors and cops call it an instrument.
It's all semantics, and the choice of words. An instrument means it is scientific. It is something that is calibrated and has measurement properties. A machine is nothing more than a combination of parts that make something go beep.
All right, yeah, and with machines, they have parts and they can be wrong and they can mess up, and that's what we like to explain to the jury because the jury can understand machines, but instruments sound so much more serious and scientific, so we always get in kind of quibbles about that. All right, explain how we're doing the alcohol, why we have a shot glass here, and how that's going to work.
Here's what we're doing. We are going to start doing drinks by definition. Definition meaning 1.5 ounces of liquor, 80 proof alcohol, a 6-ounce glass of wine, or a 12-ounce beer are all considered a drink by definition.
You have 5-ounce table wine. Is it 5 or 6 ounces?
I'm sorry, it is. It's 5-ounce table wine. I apologize.
Okay. That's okay. And the reason we're doing this is just it's easier, quicker.
It's just easier to accomplish.
And
by the way,
Pete's preference. Yeah. So.
If you look at this, I don't know if you can see it on the video, this is actually a legal 1.5 ounce shot glass. This is not what you get when you go to a bar and ask for a shot, just to be clear.
All right, so that's what we're doing. So as we sit here today, Pete, give us your height, weight, age, we can see your race,
Okay.
although you're Greek, not white.
That's right. I'm Greek, not white.
So we can see your race, talk about all that, talk about what you've eaten today, what time it is. It's about 4:35 right now, so we'll timestamp it so you can see how timing works with all this. And we're going to do it for Pete, right? He has his own tolerance. Everybody's got different tolerance, right? So just because Pete's blood alcohol goes up like this doesn't mean yours will. So that's why this isn't legal advice. We're not saying that you can consume the same amount of shots Pete did and you'd be below 0.08. That's impossible to know. Everybody on any given day will have a different response to the alcohol that they ingest. A lot of it has to do with their size, weight, age, gender, and tolerance, but a lot of it has to do with what you ate that day, what you've already drank, what you've done that day. Are you more tired, less tired, whatever it happens to be. So let's just see where Pete's state is right now, and then that's what we're going to use for this experiment.
Here's a background. I'm 44 years old. I'm 5 feet 8 inches tall. I'm about 185 pounds. Normal night's sleep.
That's weird. Usually you're 40 years old, 5'10", 170 pounds.
Yeah, but this is scientific, so I have to be accurate.
All right, I got you. So we're
I'm
gonna be
5'10"
accurate
on my, what is it, 5'10" on my Tinder page.
Yeah, exactly.
So what happens is I've had 2 pieces of pizza today for lunch. I am a social drinker. I do not drink every day. It's normally on the weekends, and it's normally not a lot.
Right.
So, you know, I'm used to consuming
Because
some
you're
alcohol.
usually driving.
I'm usually driving.
When he's in
right.
a group, he's usually driving, so he's not going to have more than a drink usually, or if he's calling an Uber or something like that. All right, so now we've kind of got the starting point. Why don't you blow? Let's show the camera the 0.0 or 0.00, and then we can start.
And here we go.
So that's our starting point, right? So now we're going to leave, we're going to go outside, we're going to do some FSEs, and then we'll talk about it. But before we go, you blew in it for a long time. Is there a certain amount of time you have to blow in it?
You know, the Intoxilizer 8000 actually gives you an audible beep.
Okay, when it's good.
Yeah, when it's good. This thing, it basically just says, you know, blow for about 5 seconds, which is what I'm doing.
We a lot of times have clients that will blow, but not blow hard enough on purpose, so they can't get a reading. That doesn't help you. That ends up being counted as a refusal, which we'll get to what a refusal means. But for now, let's go outside and do some field sobriety exercises. All right, so while we've got Pete at a 0.00 blood alcohol level, we're gonna do the field sobriety exercises. I'm not a cop. We have the actual sheet that the cops use. I'm going to read the instructions and demonstrate as cops do. When we get here in the process, other stuff has happened. We're gonna discuss that stuff in there while Pete's drinking as to not waste time. So to get to the field sobriety exercises, this is kind of giving us a base point of how Pete performs when he has 0 alcohol in his system at all. The first one that law enforcement officers usually do is called the horizontal gaze nystagmus, the HGN, right? Which is basically, they take a lit pen, they go like this, see how your eyes do it. You have to get special certifications, although half of them aren't certified even when they do it. We object to it, it's supposed to be scientific. See if the pupils move like this or shake when they're doing it. The problem with it is you can't see, lots of times these are recorded, right? Either by a dash cam or a body cam from the law enforcement officer, which is great because we all get to watch and you get to watch as a jury to see how these people perform on these tests, because it's supposed to be driving under the influence of alcohol to which your normal faculties are impaired. So in order to judge that, that's what these field sobriety exercises are for. The problem with the HGN is we, the lawyers, and you, the jury, can't actually see those pupils moving. So we just have to take the cop's word for it, and nobody likes to do that, especially not criminal defense lawyers, especially not criminal defendants. So I am not certified in it, so unlike some cops that still try to do it, and then they go take the class, and then they come back and say, yeah, I did a really good job on that. We're not going to do the HGN today. But what they look for is equal pupil size, resting nystagmus, which is the shaking, and equal tracking, okay? So those are some of the things that they look at. And some clues to which somebody is impaired is a lack of smooth pursuit, distinct and sustained nystagmus at maximum deviation, and onset of nystagmus prior to 45 degrees. Okay, let's get to the actual physical field sobriety exercises. And the first one is the walk and turn. So most of you probably know what that is. Pete knows what it is, but I'm still going to read the instructions. And as we do these over and over again, when we go up to 0.08 and 0.15, I'm not going to do this big introduction. I'm going to get right into the instructions so we can see what the time is like for somebody that's had some alcohol and how they have to listen to these instructions and follow these instructions. Now, Pete already knows them and he's going to hear them 3 times today. Most people don't know them and are hearing the instructions for the first time when they get pulled over for a DUI, so it's much harder. All right, the walk and turn. Place your left foot on a line, real or imaginary. We have a real line here. And put your, don't start until I'm done with the instructions, sir. Put your right heel against the toe of your left foot. Place your arms down at your sides. Maintain this position until I have completed the instructions. So go ahead, get in that position until I have completed the instructions. Do not start walking until you are told to do so. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, so you check yes here on this sheet, which we're going to put on the camera so you can see it. You check yes there. Now this is really important because if he starts walking beforehand, that's a telltale sign he's drunk and not paying attention because they just kind of start walking. When I tell you to start, take 9 heel to toe steps on the line, turn and take 9 heel to toe steps down the line. Now I'm going to demonstrate for you, okay? So you start here with your right foot, left foot on the line. That's 1, 2, 3, all the way until you get to 9. And once you're here and you're going to turn, you pivot, turn, turn, and then you start walking this way. 1, 2, 3, all the way until you get to 9, okay? While you are walking, keep your arms at your sides, watch your feet at all times, and count your steps out loud. That's really important. Once you start walking, don't stop until you have completed the test. Do you understand?
I do.
Go ahead.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So they have here, which we're going to put the sheet on the board again, each step that he is supposed to take. And I circle a step if he misses the line. Okay, on that one, luckily, and thank God, because that would kind of ruin the experiment, he hit the line on every step. So I'm not going to circle any of his feet or footsteps on that one. Okay, so it also gives the cop some clues. Cannot keep balance while listening to instructions. Starts too soon, stops while walking, does not touch heel to toe, steps off the line, uses arms for balance, improper turn, incorrect number of steps. So I'm not going to check any of those boxes because he didn't miss any of those clues or cues on the first time performing that field sobriety exercise. As we continue to go, we will see if he starts missing any of those, and if he does, I will check them and you'll see them up on the screen. The next field sobriety exercise is the one leg stand. Here are the instructions. Stand with your feet together and your arms down at your sides. Okay, just like this. It says I'm supposed to demonstrate it. Do not start to perform the test until I tell you to do so. Do you understand the instructions so far? When I tell you to start, raise either leg with the foot approximately 6 inches off the ground. Keep your foot parallel to the ground, okay? Hands at your sides, 1 foot, 6 inches off the ground. Keep both legs straight, do not bend your legs, and your arms at your side. While holding that position, count out loud in the following manner, okay? 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, and so on. Keep your arms at your sides at all times and keep watching the raised foot. Do you understand?
I do.
So they have a box here that says can't perform test at all, and some people really can't do this one. So I'm not going to check that one. So let's go ahead and start.
1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009, 1010, 1011, 1012, 1013, 1014, 1015, 1016, 1017, 2018, 2019, 2020.
All right, you can stop. So it doesn't say a specific number here. Sometimes they do, but usually it's just until the cop says stop or whatever. So usually you can tell at this point he's fine. So here are some clues that I can check off. He sways while balancing, and you can say sways to the left or sways to the right. Use arms to help balance. Hopping or puts foot down. Okay, those are things you can check. I did not check any of them because Pete didn't do them during this exercise. All right, so those are the main most used 2 field sobriety exercises that we are going to do over and over again once we get to 0.08 and 0.15. As for now, the first sheet that I'm going to fill out that you're going to see is Pete at 0.00, and he performed flawlessly on the field sobriety exercises. Let's go back over to the bar and start drinking. All right, we're back in the bar, and now we're going to start drinking. It is exactly 5 o'clock. Isn't that perfect? It's 5 o'clock somewhere, and that somewhere is here. Go ahead and pour your shot. Let's take the first shot. So the way it works is you take a shot every 20 minutes, and we're going to blow in here every 20 minutes so we can see when he gets to a 0.08.
And again, to be clear, this is 80 proof, 1.5 ounces. Not exactly my drink of choice, but it will do the job. Salud.
Okay, so now let's get into some of the nitty gritty about DUIs as we wait for that to take effect, right? So it's 5 o'clock, so at 5:20 I should probably set an alarm. Let me do that so we don't screw this up. How fast do you think you're going to reach 0.08? That's the first question.
I think I'll be at 0.08 somewhere after my second shot and third, somewhere in there.
So you're going to take 2, but before when we hit that on 20 minutes, then you think you're going to be at 0.08.
Yeah.
Okay. What does 0.08 mean? 0.08% BAC.
All right.
What does that mean?
0.08 is breath alcohol level. So it is the percentage of alcohol that your body is producing that is measured through your breath. There's different types of alcohol. There's legal alcohol numbers versus medical numbers, but don't get caught in the details. At the end of the day, it's 0.08% of my blood volume is alcohol.
So when we talk about DUIs or DWIs in some cities or states, what is a DUI? What does it mean? Where does it come from statutorily in Florida?
Driving under the influence is what DUI means. And what it means is that you're in a position where you're operating a motor vehicle and that your normal faculties are impaired, and the jury instruction actually defines normal faculties as your ability to walk, talk, think, and make decisions of, on a daily basis, regular decisions.
So when we talk about it, it used to be above a 0.08 or normal faculties impaired, right?
Right.
Which and now it used to be and.
It used to be and, now it's conjunctive. So it's your normal faculties can be impaired, but you don't blow 0.08, you're still potentially DUI.
Right, but back in the day, it used to be and. So you had to blow above 0.08 and your normal faculties had to be impaired. So sometimes we would win a trial if somebody blew above a 0.08, but they could prove by the field sobriety exercises or some other way that their normal faculties are not impaired.
Sure.
Okay. So one of the things we're going to keep track of as well is whenever a cop pulls somebody over, the thing they always see that they always say that's pretty damning for a defendant is bloodshot, watery eyes, unsteady on his or her feet, and this strong odor of alcohol.
It's always the same.
So those are some of the observations that they talk about. Why are the cops' observations of a defendant important?
It's important because the police officer is allowed to testify. Actually, anybody can testify to what their observations are in court. So what she is testifying to is, I saw the defendant, and the defendant had bloodshot, watery eyes, which is indicative of intoxication, the strong odor of alcohol, which is a misnomer because nobody can tell the difference between strong and weak.
That's actually not admissible. Right.
And that they're unsteady on their feet. It's the cop making the probable cause determination for whether or not they can go to the next step, which is to do an investigation for a DUI, a criminal DUI.
And that's important because, and we're going to do that throughout the process, see how Pete's body is affected by the alcohol, but it's important because there's a lot of stuff that a cop that pulls you over can't testify to, right? So what can't they testify to and why?
They can't testify to things other people told them. That's hearsay. They can't testify to things that were learned in the course of a traffic accident. It's called the accident report privilege. They can't testify to that. So really they're stuck with whatever they physically saw and did.
So usually what happens is, and we're going to get to stops in a second, but usually what happens is one officer will pull you over and do the traffic investigation, and a different officer will come do the DUI investigation, the field sobriety exercises, the breathalyzer, things like that.
And there's a reason.
Right. And so what's that reason?
And the reason is the police officer cannot mix the traffic investigation with the criminal DUI.
And why is that?
Because the traffic investigation has an accident report privilege attached to it, meaning the person's information that they gave the police officer can't be used against them.
And the reason for that is it's protected.
Right.
They want people, if there's an accident or whatever it may be, to be honest with them and not invoke their Fifth Amendment right. If they invoke their Fifth Amendment right, they won't get all the details from the accident. So what happens is even a defendant, and usually a defendant's statements are always admissible in court, but if they give statements as it results from an accident, those are all protected and they can't be used against them in the criminal aspect. And that's important because we want those officers that are doing the traffic investigation to have all the information they need. So we want to protect it so nobody's afraid to give them the true information.
And that's how traffic lights get retimed. That's how stop signs get put up. And that's how we actually manage traffic patterns by getting that information.
Right. So that's why it's important and that's why it's privileged. And the cop can't testify to what other people tell her, him or her, and they can't testify to what's in their report, right? So that's why their observations are so important, because sometimes the prosecution will call the officer that pulled you over to talk about what you looked like, what you smelled like, what your eyes were like, all that stuff. If you were unsteady on your feet, if you couldn't and you were fumbling around with your ID or your registration or whatever it may be, that's the observations that the cop has firsthand knowledge about that they'll testify to. So let's get into the stops. What are some of the most common reasons people are pulled over during a DUI?
Normally, it's either something happened, meaning there's a car accident, a traffic signal was run, or like the police officer is just watching traffic and they'll see somebody weaving out of lanes. They'll do something that is a minor traffic violation. And the rule of thumb is if a police officer follows someone for about 2 blocks, the 2-block rule says they'll find something to have a reason to stop you.
Oh, I have cop friends that have pulled people over for just stopping past the stop bar at a stop sign.
That technically is a
Which
violation.
technically is a violation. We did a whole podcast on this with my dad. If you want to go back, we'll link it in the bottom. That just talks about all the reasons for a stop, legitimate and illegitimate. One of the funny things is we hear one of the most common reasons people are pulled over and an indication that it is a DUI is driving without their headlights on at night. So it's like usually when you're drunk, you forget to click that button. So many cars are automatic now, but that used to be a big one. All right, we are done with our 20-minute timer.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and take a second shot.
You want to take a breath test? Or
Yeah. Let's take a breath test, see where you're at. Just
Okay.
how that 20 minutes affected you.
2, 1. All right, let's see what happens. So 1.5 ounces, still 0.00.
All right.
Round 2, still 0.00.
Okay.
Which is not surprising, actually.
Right. Which is interesting, though, when you think about how people sometimes blow a 0.18 and they're like, I swear I only had 2 glasses of wine. It's like, oh, that's funny because 1 shot and you're still at 0.00 20 minutes later.
L'chaim. All right, 2 down.
All right, and we're starting our 20-second clock, and we're going to pause. Do you have something else?
No, I'm just going to say, let's talk about what I feel.
Okay.
Other than my throat's burning right now, which is why I don't drink vodka. First drink, I made a joke, actually. Oh, here it comes. I don't really feel anything.
Okay.
I'm okay. You know, I don't have like haziness. There's no buzz or anything. I'm just had the second drink. I noticed that it's a little bit more easy going down than the first one.
Okay, but you're not feeling anything right now.
No.
So we're only 20 minutes into it, basically. You've had 2 shots now. We'll see how we are after a few minutes. We're going to go ahead and just pause the video now and kind of skip ahead. So let's say a cop pulls you over for an illegitimate reason, such as weaving within your lane, or honking your horn, or doing something where he said you looked suspicious. Sometimes cops do that. It's not a lawful reason to pull somebody over. Let's say that happens and then you end up you blow above a .08, which is the legal limit in Florida. I don't know if we said that yet, which is where we are. That's why we're starting here, getting to a .08. But what happens if they pull you over for a wrong reason and you end up blowing above a .08? Are you still going to get convicted of a DUI?
You can, unless you've got a good lawyer that understands the concepts of motion practice and then files a motion to suppress all of that because it is the fruit of the poisonous tree.
So what does the fruit of the poisonous tree mean?
Meaning that if the tree is poisonous, everything that comes from that tree is also poisonous. In other words, if the police officer stop is unlawful, then everything that culminates from that stop is unlawful.
Right, so that means you can throw it out, basically. It can get thrown out if they pull you over for the wrong reason. It's just like if you get stopped illegally and they find something illegal in your car, well, too bad, because you can't just pull people over illegally. So, all right, let's talk a little bit more about the BAC. Let's talk about implied consent. What is that?
Okay. In Florida, you have a driver's license. Your driver's license has some verbiage on the front of it that says that you imply that you will consent to the determination of your blood alcohol if requested to do so. In Florida, your ability to drive is not a right, it is a privilege. And one of the implications is that as part of that privilege, you are consenting to have your blood alcohol tested if so required. So if I pull my driver's license out, and it says right here, operation of a motor vehicle constitutes consent of any sobriety test required by law.
All right, so we found the implied consent. And any pauses, time's still going, so we're getting close to our 20 minutes being up. Okay, here it is. I am now requesting that you submit to an approved test of your blood for the purposes of determining the alcohol content of your blood. Your failure to submit to any lawful test of your breath, urine, or blood will result in a suspension of your privilege to operate a motor vehicle for a period of 1 year for a first refusal, or for a period of 18 months if your driving privilege has been previously suspended as a result of a refusal to submit to such a test or tests. If you refuse to submit to a lawful test of your breath, urine, or blood, and your driving privilege has been previously suspended for a prior refusal to submit to a lawful test of your breath, urine, or blood, you commit a misdemeanor in addition to any other penalties. The refusal to submit to a chemical or physical test upon the request of law enforcement officers as provided in the statute is admissible into evidence in any criminal proceeding. Will you take the test? Subject says yes or subject says no.
Right.
So explain what that means. Why do you have to read that implied consent in Florida?
At that point, the police officer is reading you the law that says you are obligated to provide a sample. Frankly, if you provide it, great, they've given you the warning. If you don't provide it, that's the basis for them filing the second charge against you, which is refusal to provide a lawful breath or
So
blood
in
sample.
Florida, DUI is a misdemeanor usually, first time, DUI, misdemeanor. But the refusal is also a misdemeanor, okay? So when we talk about refusals and things like that, I heard in the implied consent that I just read, them talk about a license suspension. So you can get a 12-month license suspension, or it said an 18-month. Explain that.
Depends on which one it is. If you provide a breath sample and it's over 0.08, your license is going to be suspended. That suspension for your first time is a 12-month suspension. But if you refuse, that first suspension becomes an 18-month suspension. And to be clear, this is not a criminal sanction.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
This is from the Department of Motor Vehicles administrative suspension. So it is completely separate and distinct from any suspensions you might get as part of your DUI conviction if you have one.
So you still get this stuff even if you beat a DUI, basically.
And even if you beat it, you still have it, right?
You still have a refusal unless you beat the refusal, which is very hard to beat because usually they read you implied consent, you say no, it's on video. So it's hard to beat a refusal even if you end up beating the DUI. And if you beat the DUI, the refusal doesn't automatically go away. You could still be dealing with that charge because that is a separate crime you are committing to refuse, which is why a lot of times lawyers don't or shouldn't advise people to refuse because they're technically advising them to commit a crime in Florida. So talk a little bit about why there's kind of two lanes. We explained to every client in every DUI case that there are two parts to a DUI case, the criminal and the DHSMV or whatever.
The administrative side.
Right, so the administrative side. So what is that administrative side like? What do you have to do?
Yeah, the administrative side is just that, is your right to have a driver's license. Your privilege to have a driver's license is revoked. And what happens is it's a completely different legal system. It is not in the courts. It is done through the administrative office of the Department of Motor Vehicles. They have their own administrative hearing officers, and they will make a determination whether you were above 0.08, whether the police officer had probable cause to believe that your normal faculties were impaired, and whether or not you refused to a lawful breath, blood, or urine test request. That's it. That's as far as that discussion goes. And if they identify yes to any of those, you lose your license.
So talk about the hearing process, what you can do if you challenge it, if you waive it, and most all of this is Florida. This is very specific state to state.
Yes.
So we're talking Florida, how you fight that administrative process, because there are some different ways to fight that than the criminal way.
Florida says you have the right to a formal review of your suspension, an informal review of your suspension, and just recently, I shouldn't say recently, in the last few years, you have the right to waive that administrative hearing. And the reason is, you can get an informal hearing if there's something blatantly obvious. The police officer pulls you over and they say that you blew 0.08, yet there's no breath, blood, or urine sample. It just doesn't exist. You don't have to go to and have a full hearing. You can just say on the pleadings, on the paperwork, it's obvious that I can't be subject to this. Very rarely will you do if you're gonna have a review hearing, you're not gonna wanna do an informal. A formal review is a literal review of all the documents. You can talk to the police officer, you can call him for testimony, and you've got to be able to establish whether or not the police officer had probable cause to believe that you were under the influence while operating a motor vehicle, whether you submitted to a lawful breath, blood, or urine test, and whether or not you blew 0.08 or higher. And sometimes you can find issues with the way the police officer did it. Did they actually see you operating a motor vehicle under the influence, or was there a car accident? The police officer shows up 20 minutes later after you've been sitting in the bar knocking him back. Those are the kind of things that you can raise. If you beat the administrative hearing on the formal side, you get your license back.
You can also challenge the stop. Right?
Absolutely.
At a formal review hearing, why it's important, so it can be almost like a free deposition of the cop. You can figure out what the cop thought. A lot of times we can get to know whether or not the cop really hated our client, really thought our client was blasted, or if he was like, nah, it wasn't that big of a deal. Your client seemed fine. I'm not sure, if he was even, but I had to do it. It was close. Or he refused or she refused, so I really didn't have a choice. I had to arrest them for a DUI. And you get kind of a good feeling from the cop there. But what all can you challenge there?
A lot of what you're doing really, if there's a really good reason for an administrative hearing, you're obviously going to raise that for the hearing officer to say that there's just no probable cause. What are the elements aren't there? Sometimes though, there's no good reason, but you'll just do the hearing and see what the police officer says, because you also get a feel for what they're going to say in court for the criminal case. So that's really what you're looking to identify. If you can prove that there is something that's not done right? Are the breath tests invalid because the calibration didn't come out right? Are the breath tests, and we'll talk about this, within 0.02? Is the person that gave you the field sobriety exercise certified? But they can get really intricate and detailed.
If you win the admin review and you get it thrown out, do you win your DUI?
No, one has no relation to do with the other.
Two totally separate things, right? So you've got the whole criminal process and then you've got the whole administrative review process. We have about 7 minutes left on our timers. Okay.
So we have a 0.012. We did, and I actually filled up the glass. So
take it.
Here's
right,
number three. Prost.
All right.
All right.
Another 20-minute timer. And let's talk here a little bit. So now that we know you're not a 0.00 anymore, starting the 20-minute timer. So talking more about the formal review hearing, you said that you can waive it.
Yeah.
What does that mean? And why would somebody want to waive it?
There's a new rule, and it's been over the last couple of years, where you can actually waive the right to have a formal review, and the Department of Motor Vehicles Administrative Division will just give you something called a hardship license, meaning that you can drive for work, religious, medical, and educational purposes. And if you want my opinion, the reason they did this is everybody was asking for a formal review hearing, and it was just consuming their resources too much, and they realized it ain't worth it.
I also think they did it because, like, for a policy argument, so all these people are not going to be able to work. They're not going to be able to go to school. They're not going to be able to go to church because they got a DUI or they're accused of a DUI.
Right, because
that makes life much more difficult for everybody in the whole process.
Because if you lose a formal review hearing or an informal review hearing, you're stuck with the hard suspension. So for 30 days...
Okay, explain the difference between a hard suspension and a hardship license.
Yeah, a hard suspension means you cannot drive. Period. Your license is gone for 30 days or for 90 days.
Not for work, not for anything.
Nothing. A soft suspension means your license is technically suspended, but you're allowed to operate your vehicle for school, work, medical, and education purposes. Your own, not somebody else's.
So people need that hardship license because I think the other thing is they were clogging the courts because everybody wanted to push their case, demanding speedy trial. If you can't work, that's impossible to just continue on with life. Okay, so one of the things in trial that we talk about when we're picking our jury, we always ask the question, who here thinks it's illegal to drink and drive? Every time a bunch of people raise their hand, right? So is it illegal to drink and drive?
No.
And people are like, what? I can't believe it. Pete's going to go drive now? No. But drinking and driving is not illegal as long as you're under a 0.08 and your normal faculties aren't impaired, right? So as we sit right now, do you feel like your normal faculties are impaired?
No. As I sit here,
And he just blew a 0.00, so he's not above a 0.08. Would you drive in this situation?
I probably wouldn't, knowing that I've just had 2 1.5 ounce, drinks. I would not.
Right,
and that'll eventually hit me.
The wise decision is to not. Some people give estimations like 1 drink per hour for however many hours, and you're usually fine. There's no scientific evidence behind that, and there's no guarantees that if you can prove you only had 1 drink an hour, that you're not going to get a DUI. Because like I said, alcohol hits everybody differently. So just because you can, even if you can prove it with receipts, saying I'm going to get a receipt from the bartender every hour showing I've only had 1 drink, it doesn't matter. If you blow above a 0.08 or your normal faculties are impaired, you're going to get convicted of a DUI. So it doesn't really matter in Florida.
And you may not even be convicted, but you're going to get arrested if you get pulled over.
Which is pretty miserable. So another thing that's interesting throughout this process is most people don't have a lot of evidence when they're defending a DUI case. But if you do have receipts from where you went, if you have friends that witnessed what you did and how you did it and how you were acting that night, that can go a long way in your DUI defense.
Presuming it goes in your favor and not like, here's my receipt. You had 11 beers.
Oh, there was 10 people with me. That's what people try to say all the time. Or like, let's ask this friend what he thought about me that night. I'm not sure if it's going to be good or bad. So sometimes it can cut both ways, but that's always really important. Timer's up. We've skipped ahead here. He's going to blow before he takes his 4th shot. So he's had 3 shots so far. I don't know how much time it's been. It's kind of all morphing together here. So is it loading up?
We got 5 seconds.
5 seconds, and then he's going to blow. We'll see what he's at before taking the 4th shot.
All right, here we go. Let me get close to the camera. All excited. We're at 0.027. So at this point, we're registering. I feel fine.
So you feel like you could drive? I'm not saying you would drive, but you feel like you could.
I feel like I drive.
I feel like you could dance.
I feel like
that might be a negative. If you feel like you could dance.
I feel like I could function. I could go to work. I could,
Your normal faculties are fine.
Yeah. I don't feel any different.
So that's a 0.27. So basically we're a third of the way there. It's going to take all night.
All right, we're gonna go for shot number 4.
Uh-oh. That was a perfect pour. That's what I call that.
Isia.
Get your money's worth. Tito's.
Not that we're doing advertisements, but the
Yeah,
reason I
that's true, we're
picked
definitely
Tito's, was
placement.
because it's 5 times filtered. So tomorrow morning when I actually have to get up and not have a hangover.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. I got to go to work.
That's right, because
It's
honestly,
just your average Thursday night at Tragos.
as you can see behind me, vodka is not my drink of choice. So, just something that I wanted to make sure that we had the 80 proof and that it was something I could actually get out of.
All right, so we're 4 shots in. For non-drinkers like myself,
Yeah.
seems like a lot. So what are you feeling at this point?
I'm thinking I'm starting to feel a little happy.
Okay.
I think you can just see with my mannerisms, I'm a little bit more smiley than I normally am.
Okay. Well,
But-
so I'll say, no bloodshot eyes,
Okay.
for sure. I can't smell anything yet. A little bit, but I'm also sitting while where you're
Right.
drinking. So when we get outside for the field sobriety exercises, I'll see if I can smell
Sure.
any more. If we ever do any more field sobriety exercises. Luckily, it stays light in
all right,
Florida.
it's
It's
light,
6
so we'll be
o'clock.
fine.
So it's been an hour. We've done 4 shots in an hour. We started on the money, so that makes sense because it was at 5
5
o'clock, 5:20, 5:40, and 6 o'clock. So perfect. So we've done 4 shots within this hour, basically.
Right.
We're going to wait another 20 minutes now, and then we'll take another shot.
Yay! If I were
Almost exactly a third of the way
if I
there,
were
at
18
0.08.
years old, then I'd be in trouble.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about that. Since you're at a 0.27,
Right.
now it's 0.08 is illegal for somebody over the age of 21 to
Right.
drive, right? So talk about if you're 16 to 21 and you blow a point above a 0.02, explain that situation.
Florida is a zero tolerance state, which means from the ages of 20 of the day before you turn 21 down, anybody that blows a 0.02 or higher is considered operating a motor vehicle while under the influence. And just so you know, in Florida, because driving is considered an adult activity, there is no juvenile DUI court. All DUIs are an adult court.
Okay. All right. So we're going to skip ahead now. We're going to wait 20 minutes and then come back and blow again, see if he's above a 0.08. All right. We're about to take our 5th shot. Timer's up. Let's blow, see where you're at now.
All right, 5 seconds.
For shot number 5.
All right, see what we got here.
Okay.
0.018.
Great. 0.018.
So that's
All right, go ahead. Pour a shot. Let's do it.
4 in. Here comes number 5. I don't know, I forget what language. Cheers.
Setting another timer here. All right. We'll be back. All right, we're back to discuss some DUI topics here. Some questions that we always get from clients when it talks about DUIs, and we talk a lot about blood or breath alcohol content, right? BAC.
Right.
But what about blood and urine? Is a blood test also required?
Okay, it can be required, but it is not normal. So if there is a accident or where there's bodily injury or death, then the police are obligated to take blood. If there is an inconvenient situation where you can't get urine or breath, then they can take blood. But blood is not the first thing out of the gate.
Right, why is that?
Well, because it's intrusive. Yeah.
Right. All right, and what about urine?
Truth be told, I don't think in 20-something years of practicing law, I've had very many urine cases.
neither.
I think urine, again, if you can't get blood, if you can't get breath, then urine becomes the only option. It's okay to do it, but I think it's not very common.
And a lot of times blood comes in if you get treatment after the DUI if there's an accident.
Yeah.
So if you get treatment at the hospital and they take your blood, the cops can go get your blood and test it for alcohol.
Right.
Or sometimes the hospital will test for alcohol, and that can be a form of a DUI. And what really sucks is when you refuse breath, so you've committed that crime, refusing, you get a DUI, you go to the hospital, they take your blood, and now you also have a blood alcohol level over 0.08. Now it's just a trifecta for you.
It
That's
is
the
a
worst
bad
kind of
day.
case. Yeah, that is the worst kind of case. All right. We are about at time to take another shot.
So let's-
The breathalyzer is loading up. We are about to take shot number 6. within an hour and a half here. So let's see where we're at. All right, we're getting somewhere.
All right, we're getting to
0.39. We're halfway there.
0.39.
I can't believe how long it's taking. So we're going to make a little audible, okay? We are going to now take shots every 10 minutes, speed it up a little bit. We've read some more stuff, and so he is going to take the 6th shot here, and then we're only going to wait 10 minutes before we take the 7th shot, hopefully speed up the process. Now, everybody's different. We've already talked about it, so we'll see how it affects him. We'll see if he hits a wall. Whatever it may be, you're under a 0.08 until you're not.
Yeah.
Which is always the fear, and what we always tell people is you don't know where you're at. Would you have guessed that you were at a 0.39?
I can't believe it.
I would have guessed he's at like a 0.2. Oh no, we haven't taken the 6th shot yet.
Right, this is the 6th shot.
So here's 6.
Bottoms up.
Is it getting harder or easier to take the shots?
It's getting easier, and I'll tell you, since we're talking about it.
I can smell it now too, not just that shot, but I can smell it like sitting talking to him. I can smell the alcohol more. They're getting there. I would say there's a little
glassy
red in
at
them.
least?
A little glassy and a little red, but not bad. Like, I mean, 6 shots in an hour and a half, you definitely shouldn't be driving. Do you feel like you could drive? Or do you feel like you're kind of getting to that point?
If I were sitting in a restaurant right now, I'm happy, I'm warm. I noticed that. I'm starting to get warm. I would not drive at this point.
Yeah. Well, you already wouldn't, but you feel like
No. If I were just sitting in a restaurant, we're just talking, and we said, all right, time to go home, I wouldn't drive right now. I would sit here and just kind of wait.
But you feel fine generally?
Yeah, I feel fine, but for the fact that I realize
like you feel uneasy on your feet or anything?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
but
we're going to test that. We're going to test that soon. So, all right, now we're only waiting 10 minutes, and we'll be back for shot number 7. These videos are going to be long. All right, so while we're waiting for it to get lit up, you're feeling it a little bit now. Yeah. Right? You just stood up and you said, okay, I felt it a little bit when I stood up.
I stood up.
You're used to drinking something stronger when you're just out at dinner.
Yeah, the truth is I drink scotch when I'm out, which is more alcohol by volume than vodka is. But at the same time, I'm not used to, I mean,
this is a lot. Yeah, this is a lot in a short period of time.
So I think what's going to happen is at some point my body's going to catch up. Here we go.
This is after 6. I'm literally losing track. Okay. I need to start putting check marks every time. Yeah.
See, we got 0.054.
Come on. All right.
But let's be real. Let's not forget. We're Greek. So genetically, we're just superior than everybody else.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Let's put another one down.
You're either Greek or you're not, right?
That's right.
All right.
So is this number 7?
Yes.
Okay, I want to go on the record.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had 7 shots.
When? Scotland. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
When in Scotland, right? What do they say in Scotland?
I have no idea what they say in Scotland.
Whatever. All right, that's 7.
Number 7.
So it's going to be literally the most you ever drink.
I don't think, okay.
Oh, gosh.
This is the most I've had to drink in a very long time. Let's be real. I'm definitely warm. My vision, I've got like, how do you say it? Like the halo around the sides of my head.
How do you say it? All right.
At this point, I just want to be clear. There is no way I'm driving a car.
Okay, good. All right, so at least we got there. We did 7 or we're about to do 7?
We did 7.
So we're about to do 8.
I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this very well may be my last video on The Lawyer You Know. Here we go, 4 seconds.
Okay. Come on, big numbers. Big money, big money.
It's the first time you actually won.
Gosh,
are you
how
kidding?
Is that possible?
It says I'm at 0.52.
That is an impossibility.
All right.
All right, shot number 8.
Okay. I can't believe I'm actually
Starting to
taking
feel bad now.
8th shot.
All right. Oh gosh, you're really giving it everything too.
That's because I can't stop the bottle soon enough. All right, I'm not sure what language we were in, but
go ahead.
Here it is.
All right.
So let's just be clear.
This is bad. That's half the bottle.
That's a half a bottle. Okay, we'll be back.
Right now, it's not.
We ain't gonna make it.
It's not gonna go well. All right.
This is not gonna go well. All right, let's see what happens here. Okay, 5, 8.
This is a perfect example of how this instrument or machine
is
what we rely on, and it can't be right here. 8 shots in.
Let's see what happens here, kids. All right. Oh boy.
What?
0.10.
Okay, good. We've done it. We've done it. We've broken the 0.08 wall. All right, let's go. All right, we are about to go do some field sobriety exercises. You've been with us this long. You're going to check out Pete doing field sobriety exercises above a 0.08, technically too drunk to drive, legally too drunk to drive. You can barely stand up. Here we go. It's going to be fun, but guess what? You've got to subscribe to our page because it's not until the next video that Pete's going to do these field sobriety exercises outside, same way we did them before. Let's go see how he does it. Subscribe, like the video, and let's go outside.
Thanks for watching this episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you like this content, please share it with your friends. Make sure you subscribe to our page and like our videos. If you want some interaction, get in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you. If you want to know any more information about our firm or this page, you can find out in the description or visit tragoslaw.com. We post multiple times throughout the week, so make sure you hit that bell so you can get the notification and not miss out on the next episode.